Okay, so here in Java, we'll look at some constructor calls. You're used to working with this to refer to a particular object, but we can also have this with parentheses, which means you're going to call a different constructor. And similarly, super with parentheses, you're going to call a parent constructor. Let me run through some of the logistics of this. So in general, you get a default constructor if you don't provide one, and that default constructor takes no arguments. So even though my animal class on the left here doesn't provide a constructor, I can still call a constructor. Okay, a gotcha is that if I provide a constructor that does take an argument, I no longer can use that default constructor. So here I have one that takes a string. I can use the constructor that takes in a string, but I can't use the default constructor anymore. So if I don't provide any constructor, I get a default one with no arguments. If I do provide one, I no longer have access to the default constructor, which is kind of nice actually, because maybe I don't want people to be able to create objects without passing an argument. Okay, if I have one constructor call another constructor, I can do that using the keyword this, and this then has parentheses where I pass any arguments to that other constructor. Gotcha here is that it has to be the first line of another constructor. So I can't put this in a method that's not a constructor, and I can't put that anywhere other than that first line in my constructor. And here, the constructor that takes no arguments is essentially passing a default string input name of Wally to that animal constructor. So it can be super helpful to avoid redundant code. You can also have your constructor call your parent constructor using super. So we see that here. I have the animal class that has a constructor, and the dog class extends animal, and I can call the parent constructor method with that name Snoopy. And again, this allows me to avoid redundant code. Instead of having to print out hey myself or set my name, the instance variable myself, I can just call the parent constructor. And you can check out the tester class and the output to make sure you understand. Okay, a gotcha is that children classes don't inherit constructors. So just because my parent class animal has a string, a constructor that takes in a string, I can't necessarily call that on my child class unless my child class also provides one. So here dog only provides a constructor that takes no arguments. So I can't create a new object dog passing it a string. Children don't inherit those parent constructors.